Hello world. Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida. Reba Dorsey is in the house here today. Here, my little baby I think is out of frame, but I have here a little per diem for you. Yes, thanks for stopping by. I'm Patricia O'Connor. That was my partner who probably came in out of frame. That was my little wiener dog partner, Frida Reba Dorsey, and we are the Bonsai balcony. And this is our balcony. I'm a little scrunched in here with this big old tree. This has been an acquisition of ours we've had this tree for a couple of years, and it's a Quercus suber, a Cork Bark Oak, and I got this tree about 5 years ago. I think it's first of all, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day in Alameda, California. I set up this shot earlier in the day and waited for the cloud cover to break, and so we're 2 o'clock, and that was a go, and so now I'm ready to go. This is about a 45-year-old tree. When I bought this tree, it was about 5 years ago, and I was told at the time that it was about a 40-year-old tree. Thus, the estimate of 45. The backup to that, I know it's rocking, but it's on a turntable, so it's on a turntable, and it's also on a bonsai table, so we can spend more than one kind of way here. Oh, you're back for more. So I got this tree 5 years ago. It's a Cork Bark Oak, which means that basically this is the tree that they make wine corks out of when they did wine corks out of real cork, champagne corks too, I suppose, which are now all those are plastic. Anyway, and this is a I think originally probably a Mediterranean species, not a tropical, but it's used to hot climate, and it puts out different types of leaves depending on how it's being treated. I bought this tree about 5 years ago from a bonsai garden, just about the time COVID. We were just getting going with COVID, and at first it was a huge shutdown, and then things began to relax a little bit, and in that time, I was trying to find a place where I could find real bonsai trees, and so I had found this garden, and they were just starting to open up for a few days a week during the COVID season. So I loaded up the little Subaru, and I went out there and I visited Groveway Bonsai Nursery. And they were in Hayward, California, past tense. They closed their doors, I believe, in May of this year being 2025. They had been there for, I think like 20 years or something, and the original owner had passed away a couple of years before that, and it had been passed down to other family members, but I think that and COVID and some other, and whatever else, finally got that bonsai garden, and it was a shame. It was a shame. But this tree was one of Johnny Cedar's trees, and I bought this from him and his son, and I was really happy to have this, and we've been through a lot. When I got it, it probably had not gotten quite the watering that it would have needed, because everybody was on temporary restrictions and stuff, and they had a lot of maples that were in fine state of refinement. So I'm sure their priorities were in making sure those guys never got thirsty, and probably that would explain the condition that I found this in. But I didn't exactly know how to care for this tree, and I wasn't exactly sure how much good care. So here's what. When I got the tree, it had suffered from a little bit of dieback, and I had quite a bit to learn. So it took me a little while to get on the program. of what it was I needed to do to start ramifying this tree. And I learned about auxins and which is a hormone, and I learned about branch structure, and I learned about pruning for refinement. And these scissors are not sharp enough. I'm going to grab a different pair. So I learned a lot of valuable lessons with this tree. Like I said, when I got it, it had suffered from a little bit of dieback, but it's a beautiful tree. I repotted the tree a couple of years ago, and when I was looking at the root base, it looked to me like I saw a place where this tree had originated from. I saw a stump about that big dead underneath where the sheen is, where it had been cut off. So I believe this tree was an air layer, a nicely done air layer. Now, I've started cutting leaves, but I haven't really described what we're doing here. Let's say it was your responsibility to prune and refine, say that without your voice cracking. If it was your job to prune and refine this tree in front of camera. So you're looking at it and you're going, I can't even see the tree. I can't even see the branches for all the dang branches. So am I looking at this with a styling in mind? Do I already have in my mind's eye what I'm gonna finish with this tree looking like? No, frankly, it's been overgrown for a minute, and here's why. When I got the tree, I learned about ramification, and I learned about pruning, and I learned more about fertilizing. All three of those were important, and they had a lot to do with this. But before I learned that, we suffered some dieback, and that dieback was fairly catastrophic for this and my California coastal oak. So they got pruned back within an inch of their life, which means I was just starting to build a tree, and there I was losing parts of my tree. The other one more than this one, but this one had it too. So I didn't have as much to lose on this because I hadn't learned all my lessons yet. And my lessons were that if you prune the tips, you release a hormone called auxin, and that allocation difference causes it to put back buds out everywhere. It's just like saying the old hierarchy has gone away, and now every place where a bud can sprout out is a new place where there could be a new apex, and the tree responds like every leaf could be the new highest point on the tree. So it will put out a prolific amount of those, and then see how much water they move. Basically, we always measure the most active parts of the tree, and when we measure those active parts of the tree, we see that they contain this chemical called auxin, and we seem to associate that auxin with the most growth. Really, the highest parts of the tree get the most sunlight, and because they are getting the most sunlight, they're also dispersing the most water, and auxin can be carried with the water that comes up from the trees. It also gets made in the tips. So when you prune the tips, you are telling the rest of these branches that the king just died and they should all put out buds, because that could be the new hierarchy. So here I am, I'm pruning this tree, and I can't even, you're going, wow, Patricia must know things, because I can't even see the tree. So how do you know what to prune? Here's what, there's a simple rule. Anything that grows straight up, anything that grows straight down, anything that grows straight back at the trunk, or anything on the front of the tree that's getting ready to try to poke you in the eye, goes. What it goes, and the reason it goes is whether or not it's an oak, or whether or not it's whatever the tree is, we're going to do it in layers. Because if we do it in layers, if we cut off all the stuff on the top and we cut off all the loose stuff in the bottom, then all of a sudden you can, not only are you getting light to the rest of the parts of the tree, but then you don't have all that clutter that blocks your view of the tree. And what we want to do is show off the tree, and what we also want to do is show off these branches. So I can't even see the branches. What branches? By memory, I remember there was some pretty okay branches in here, but you know what? It's, you know, I'm just saying, I'm not any more of a guru at this than you are, but I do know that rule that I just told you. So it's pretty easy at this point to go, that's going straight up. So that's a gum. That's going straight up. So you just start picking that rule, and you start taking out some of those that are doing that. Now, they don't have to. This one looks like it's going straight up, but it's just kind of going towards the light. It's really coming out and just tipping up. So if I wanted to wire that, it could be anything, right? But let's stick with our rules so far and start taking out our straight ups. Like I mentioned earlier, we had some dieback. We had some dieback on this tree. So after that, our plan was to learn more about ramification, and we did, and learn more about pruning to increase ramification, and we did. And what you see is the results of that. And at first, our goals were to not even think in terms of bar branches or back branches or any of that, and to not worry about that stuff that I was just telling you, that stuff facing up or that stuff facing back or that stuff facing in. Not to worry about that right at first, because we had so much dieback, we needed to build. We needed to build. We had a tree that was sparse. So pruning last year basically didn't come down to making choices about what was going up or we were trying to fill gaps all over the tree. The same with my coastal oak. We were just trying to we had gaps in its canopy, big old huge gaps where there was no foliage. And if a branch going the wrong way helped fill that gap, then fine. That's adding to the leaf mass. That's adding to the chlorophyll count at the end of the day. So, you know, we would allow that until we had enough growth on this tree that we could then go through and start making decisions. So right now what you see me doing is I have so much growth on this tree that I am at a point now where I can go, thank you for being here, but we're gonna obey our little rules of bonsai now and start trying to cut this thing down to layers that we can see in between and see inside of it, and stop this tree from shading the other stuff it makes. And when you walk up to a tree and you can't see all the crap that you need to prune because of all the crap you need to prune, you will be able to find. I'm just starting with the ones that went straight up. I could have just as easily decided that my enemy was my enemy was the straight backs, but I think they're harder to see. All of those guys that are straight up are kind of like sticking their hands up going, over here, we're definitely doing the wrong thing. So it's not too hard to see those in the scheme of things. Boom. Thank you. You added a lot to the build of our tree. I'm not going to do a lot of wiring on this tree. Some of these branches that I'm calling straight up or straight up from my perspective, they could also have been side branches with a little bit of wire. So, even then, this branch is straight up, but it's this is future canopy. I think that's how I see that. I don't know if you can see it. It's much right here. But the one behind it, I'm going to take that one because it's straight up just like it. But I do need something right here, and this is going to be it. I saw some straight up branches also back here, and I gave them a second look. Decided not to cut them. That was a minute ago, because I hadn't made a decision to keep something else on the top that can help us build our apex. Okay. So then you can also see stuff coming out in between little parts of the bark that aren't necessarily doing a whole lot for you, and get rid of those too. Ooh. Okay. And then the branches that are coming out next to the branches that we're using, those are stuff that you would automatically see and go, yeah, that is conflicting. Not really a top. It's not really coming straight in. That is. Oaks. Quercus subaru. I know this guy to be less than 50 years old, because at 50 years old they will make acorns. And when I say acorns, you can deduce that from the south. Or I would have possibly said acorn. But at 50 years, I believe, is what I was told, they will make acorns. And so, having been told this was a 40-year-old tree upon purchase, I would say in the 5 years that I've had it, it is a believable tale, in that that would count if it had been a 5-year-old cutting from a 40-year-old tree. If it were a branch on a 40-year-old tree, that was an original branch, and they said, yeah, it's a cutting off of a 40-year-old tree, so that makes it a 40-year-old cutting, which now makes it a 40-year-old tree because it's rooted. Yeah, right, that's true enough. Cuttings will take on the genetics of the parental material when the cutting was taken, so it won't necessarily be in better shape than the parent. If the parent was weak, the cutting may be weak and may pass along some stuff. I'm still just looking at stuff that's too thick to even see in. But I am able to still pick out enough stuff that's clouding my view because it's growing straight up or straight down. And that does help make it easier. I could probably go with some bigger pruners. Ooh. So yeah, this is, on your, if this were your first time, or it's a nice tree, and it's your umpteenth time, you may not be able to see what it is you want to do, like those pros on your favorite bonsai show. I mean, but here's the secret to that part. You put a tree on the bench, and then you go about the rest of your day while you're getting ready for this show, and while you keep looking at the tree, you keep seeing, you're focused then when you can see it a little better and you see yourself working on it, you go, yeah, we need to take care of that. I think I should probably get rid of this. I think this is probably neat. You know, you just kind of see your show and the development work that you want to do to the tree as you kind of, I would say, cool out and begin to really see the tree that you've just made a decision to do some work to. And at that point, I'm not the only person that's equated this with cutting hair. I am not the one to go cutting somebody's hair. But I can do a pretty fair job with the tree, as long as I don't get too crazy scissor happy. So I've already incorporated into my cutting stuff, the stuff that's going straight up and the stuff that's also going straight down. And the more you make room to see what's in here, the more you can see that can go. And we had a lot we could take off here. I probably was thinking that I might do this next year, but it's really getting super thick, and I've got leaves in here that it is flushing out that just makes clusters clusters now, not one or two, but just clusters that are not seeing light. And that's asking, I think that's asking for trouble. That's asking for they're not going to get enough light. They're not going to be overly healthy. They're not going to have enough air between them. Just cut that whole thing back. And then next thing you know, they have powdery mildew because they're holding moisture, because this is a cluster of leaves where light doesn't, where air doesn't move through. And they're not overly healthy because light also doesn't move through there. Do you want to? Ooh. Okay. All right. Wow. I've been building this branch for a couple of years. Actually steps in front of camera for some mysterious reason. So I was about to cut this branch because you can't see what I'm holding, but there's one of these directly under this thicker branch. It comes right out of the bottom, and it's exactly what I was saying is an example of the bottom branch. So I was getting ready to cut the thing coming out of the bottom of the thicker branch, and then I looked at it, and what it has going against it is youth. That was the one thing that could not die. Whenever I only had like 3 branches, this was one of them that I'd made. And as evidence that it's one that I'd made, it still has the wire scars all over it from where I made it 3 years ago. But it wasn't a bad shape. I mean, that was the shape that you get with ramification. I mean, with wiring. But also, what we had learned about ramification made that possible. This branch spent 2 or 3 years with just a little bit of fluff on the end, and I'm going, this is your last chance to do something more than fluff on the end. But cutting the tips, which we now mostly do with pinching, I'm doing cutting on the branches themselves, but from now on, I'm going to incorporate more and more pinching the tips when they are the right length, as opposed to chopping them later or longer. So this is what I decided to keep And I think that was a good move. This young branch has already some really nice shape to it coming right off the front. I'm gonna clip this piece coming off the top, and then I'm going to clean this up a little more, but I didn't take it all, I just took part of it. I took the main part of it. This back branch here, that's probably a year or two old. Ooh, pow. Alright. I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. I'm pretty happy with all of that. Alright. So yeah. Who are you? So many leaves. I can't see all the branches for all the branches. These guys are just getting tangled in it. Oh, okay. That was 3. It's a good idea, and I don't always do it, but it's a good idea to leave yourself a little room for some dieback. Oaks are pretty forgiving when it comes to that. Take that off. Okay. Oaks are pretty forgiving when it comes to that, but it's on branches that you're just pruning the tips and stuff. Leave a little room. Leave a little room for dieback, especially if it's something critical. You can always come back through and do a little cleanup later. Good. So yeah, we're doing a little bit of carnage, but this thing has been needing. This thing has been putting out a lot of stuff for quite some time. I'm gonna stay on my. I've been allowing stuff to grow longer on the tree. Before, when I was just starting to get my act together a little bit better on ramification, I would chop everything back and then decide which leaf was facing the direction that I wanted the new split to come from. And but as far as making a decision on length, I was trying to build a canopy that was overly dense. Instead of letting things grow out a little ways, I would cut it and let it split off closer to the trunk, and then cut that and let it come, and it was going to take 1,000,000 years to get out here. I mean, the trunk is this big, the canopy needs to be, something like this, and I should probably let stuff get out to a length closer than that than to try to build a solid block of leaves that come out there. So I'm learning, I guess it's a long way of saying, I'm learning a little bit about my spacing and my timing these last couple of years. Just made a decision there that we're okay. All right. That's facing up. We'll get there. But yeah, I am allowing things. I know. Don't do that. Allowing things to grow longer, the stuff that we're keeping. And then also, like I said, we just started. I didn't fully have some faith in that. If that doesn't do what you want it to do, Patricia. If that doesn't do what you want to do, cut it back. There'll be more. You don't see a lot of fertilizer on this tree right now because I picked it all up before I went dragging it through the balcony. This tree has gotten, maybe I'll do this first. This tree has gotten a little, it is a heavy block of wood. Also, this old girl is in pretty good shape. But it's not just a matter of lifting this thing. I have to dance with it around this and this without hurting anything. Got a bunch of branches coming out here in the same spot. And let's one of them was little, which my go-to is a lot of times the little branch between the two. However, this time the longer one of the two was new, small also, and already had some ramification on it that was very, very natural looking, and I think suited us. I think it just did. So you can kind of see that I'm cutting branches that I'm not getting a good look at. It's because it's easier to make judgment on branches that are coming out in clusters at the base of a branch that I know is a keeper. So you can kind of you kind of see me just poking stuff in the thickness and going all machete on it. But I know that stuff was coming out at the base of something, and I wasn't keeping it. So that kind of made that not such a hard move. And from my perspective, I'm looking at it a little close, but I bet from your perspective, you're already noticing that you can see into the tree a little better. Yeah, feel where they're going. Now, what's going to happen is the tree going to take on this shape now, and this is going to be our, no, probably not. It's going to start, we've got all summer to go yet. This tree is, I would say this tree is probably going to backbone a whole lot from what we're doing right now. But this is pretty much just kind of a step in the process. I like all of it. I also have some stuff growing down real low. Like, what is that doing down there? It is work in progress. It's going to fatten up our base. Otherwise, it is too low to be working branches. What are you talking about? And I'm talking about this stuff over here is actually too low in the tree, but it won't hurt it to fatten up that part of it. Won't hurt us to fatten up that part of the tree either. So. And some of these branches that I'm cutting didn't necessarily come out of the top by themselves of the limb. They came out this way, but shortly thereafter, maybe they started reaching for the sun. So I'm either going to go back through and wire that back flat or cut it. And so far, to avoid more, this is a tricky tree to wire. It's not an impossible tree to wire. It's not an impossible tree to wire. You have to put your wires on, and then you have to move them pretty quick, or you're going to leave a scar. But you can't just move them because you're going to lose the holding power they had if you pull them up. So what you have to do is wire the tree, and before those wires have a chance to dig in and start scarring up the tree, go back through and lay another wire next to your old one And when that in place, and making sure that it's heavy enough, a heavy enough gauge wire to support the structure as it stands now, then you go back and pull up. Then you pull up the old wire, and the new wire will not fall in the old tracks that way, and also the tree won't lose its shape. It won't relax. I've done that to small trees. I have unwired them with the intention of trying to maintain the shape that I had in them, while trying to maintain the shape that I had in them, but at the same time, that shape was pretty hard bent with zip ties and heavy wire when the tree was much smaller. And when it came time to cut that loose and then reapply it, I never got that tight bend back. I never got that again. I never saw that again in that. So, yeah. That was a bummer. So that's why I say when it comes time to remove a wire to keep from, and that is under the, on an oak, it wasn't on there long enough to hold the shape that we wanted, but it was on there long enough to dig in. See, that's what you get into. On my pines, I don't care. They're going to bark over. And you go, well, it's a cork bark. But you have to look at that for a few years. And also, sometimes it will bark over in such a way as to amplify those trench marks. So, yeah. Just a little more. Now, I don't know if you can see it right here. I'm just going to go in there and I'm blindly chopping at stuff because I know where it's coming from, and there's already a happy branch there. So that's an easy peasy decision. Also, at this stage in the game, I could look at something and go, oh my God, I just had the best idea, but only the second after I cut that. Well, the part where you chop it off probably means that it'll back bud right there again. So, not a whole lot of dealer's remorse in pruning this. Okay. And since I'm not going to wire it when they work their way back up, finding their way towards the light, I should just prune them off because I'm not, like I said, we're not looking to go through and wire this thing. Although, like I said, I told you the secret to it when I did wire this tree, and other people have very successfully wired their oaks, but I focused on what I did wrong and how I would fix that. And yeah, I would say, as tricks go, that is a trick, and that is a trick that I would have in my arsenal. How to treat pruning and how to wire a tree that is hard to wire without showing scars. Now, I'm not one that's too lazy to wire, and I certainly have the nerve to do it. But also, what you guys have seen me do with my Japanese black pines, I would not get away with. I would not get away with an oak. If I crack a branch, it will likely die. Yes, you need to cut paste that every single time without fail, and a lot of times they die anyway if you crack them. So that goes right along with the wiring lessons that I learned early on trying to wire this tree, and I'm still looking at wiring scars that are 5 years old. This branch has some, and this branch has some. I made this branch, and I made this branch. And I've since then decided that with everything I have going on, I'm not going to stand on guard that much for this tree doing that. And so we're just gonna go clip and grow. Clip and grow is where you just decide where you want your next branch to come out based on what it is you're pruning, and also a little bit about how the tree behaves when pruned. Is what, get your hair out of here. Is what helps us make decisions on that. But when it comes to oak, say I wanted a branch to come out that way, then I would cut this branch or this twig to here, and the follicle just behind this leaf, and every leaf has one, will be activated, and it'll give me a branch that way. Sometimes it'll give you two, but the idea is you should get one that's the same direction as the leaf you cut back to. That wasn't a huge stalling decision. That was just me showing y'all how to do that. Yeah. Okay. Now, with my coastal oak, I've let some of this little stuff grow out about this far above the trunk, and it caused me a little inverse taper. But right here, this part could swell up, so I've been kind of letting these guys go. But they're not part of our design, and it's not like I'm done with this. And the reason I say I'm not done with this is I know that by doing this, those will just back bud and come back. You know, like that damn whisker that won't go away. This I actually am encouraging. I haven't shaped it yet, but I am encouraging it to grow. Okay. Mentioned it earlier. Every side branch that works its way up, and since I'm not going to wire it, I should treat it as something going up and cut it. Get ahead of yourself. So this is pretty therapeutic on the whole. I think if you've been watching, this is the kind of thing that pretty much like a hairdresser, I could just sit here and gossip and cut this thing back, you know, remembering that rule of nothing up, nothing down, nothing pointing back at it, nothing pointing out at you. Mind your manners. Stop pointing at people. So yeah, and so you can do that without even really seeing a major design or having a major design idea going for you. You can have time. You can cut it back to where you can see the darn tree, and then after you've done all that, and you've made all those little micro decisions about what stays and what goes. Oh man, I missed. Go sit down and look at the tree, and then go sit down and look at the tree, and then what to do next will be kind of automatic. You know, you will have the prune work that you will have just done will have facilitated a design that you yourself will be able to see. Make a decision. Make a decision back. Okay, hang on. Here. So these decisions are a lot easier because of the amount of grow back this tree gives me, and we get that because it is a drought tolerant tree, and we water it. Yeah, be drought tolerant if you need to be. You never know when that might be handy, but on the other hand, don't worry about it. I got you. The water bill's paid, and yeah, we're gonna water the dang tree. So it gets watered every day. It's kind of hard to water because it's a big, huge, the roots are a heavy mass of roots. I always considered it under potted. I think I'm at a stage in my life where I'm starting to look at other people's trees and then go, that's overpotted. And then I'm going back on my trees and going, rethink that rule of where you just said that was over. It's like you'll kind of maybe let your own thing go because you thought it was cool before you knew better, and then when maybe sometimes you see that wrong on your trees, or maybe you see it wrong the first time on other people's trees. But either way, when I have those little moments, it's always yeah. Apply those to you and see how you're doing. Yes. Do I have this going on? And somebody also once pointed, that's almost a relationship thing, Dr. Patricia. That if your partner does something that gets on your nerves, notice whether or not you also do that. Sometimes the thing that gets on your nerve the fastest is because you're already using up your tolerance. You're already using up your tolerance for that. I was like, huh, really, do we do that? Yeah, I think we do sometimes. Also, don't take marriage advice from people who've been divorced twice. Ooh. Ooh. Pow. Alright, that's a little too up for me. Well, that's going up. Chop all that back. Okay. Yeah, these guys are absolutely not afraid to put out branches anywhere on themselves. They will just put out stuff in places like coming right out of the bark is what I'm saying. That's cypress trees can do that, you know. Pine trees, when you start getting bark, a lot of times you don't see a lot of buds come splitting through the bark trying to pull their way through or something. But not so these guys. Like my bark cypress, they'll just split the bark on their way through like it's butter. Come on, show me you're an ambidextrous and cut that with the other hand. What else? Who else? Anybody else want to look? Whoa. It's going to go right straight up. Very rewarding tree to grow. If you can water this, you can keep it. If you can water it and feed it, you can make it really happy, and it will put out a whole lot of branches. If you can water it and feed it and then trim it a little bit or pinch it back, you will see that it will back bud a whole lot and give you a whole lot of things with which you can build more tree parts. There. It's so many leaves I couldn't see where to, like it threw up a really nice defense. I couldn't see where to grab it. Boom. Boom. I'm gonna clean that up a little. And that's okay. So I think you can see that we're starting to see the tree in here now a little bit. Where does that come from? Right at the bottom. So also, it's okay if you do this. You can probably go back on this video or a million other videos and see where I will cut a branch and then, or cut a branch in half, and then once I can actually see it better, I'll cut the rest of it. So it's like, yeah, but you already cut that. That's the second time you, yeah, I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I couldn't see the forest for the trees the first time. So I'm trying to make these look flatter, like flat pads, which just sounds like I'm talking about pods or something. But you can get these guys flatter, and what that does is just by taking out the undergrowth and the overgrowth, that helps you to see better. And that also helps light, which is what somebody has been standing on their chair waiting for me to say, which helps light get in to more branches. But as you've heard me have issues with powdery mildew and stuff with these guys before, what's really good is when we have all of that oxygen is able to move through there, and that would minimize. Never water the foliage on an oak. That will wreck them so fast. Found that out hard. But you can wreck the foliage on an oak like it's got some wild and crazy disease that you've allowed into the, okay. And it's scary when you see all that, and it could have been storage just because you took your water can and just dumped water over the top of the tree. And oaks feel so solid, and they will so not put up with your bad habits if you water the foliage. Now, watering the foliage isn't always a bad habit. My pines love that, and that's a good way to keep them. You can kind of keep pests at bay just by hosing down the foliage every time you water. Go, go, go. But oaks, man, that'll wreck your tree. And you feel these leaves, and they feel so hard, and like they would be so strong, but no, not really. And I'm at the stage now where the more I cut, the more I see that needs cutting, which is totally fine. Totally fine. Yeah, that's the bottom. You need to cut the bottom branch there. Boom. And that's all there is really to this. Alright, you saw me do this for the first 10 minutes? Fine. Now do that for another hour. There you got it. Drive careful. Thanks for coming. Boom. For those of you who are still here, this is a very relaxing and rewarding process. And there's a lot of processes in bonsai when you're done, you're like, yeah, don't look at it too harshly. We did a lot of good work here today, right? This isn't. This is one of those where I'm not ready to put this on the floor to Kokofu or nothing, but I think the tree will look. I think the tree will look a little better trimmed. And I can cut back some of these. Cut back some of our undergrowth and some of our old chops that we left stubs for. So all of that stuff that was too thick, that would be a good place for us to get powdery mildew. Also, when you've got places where leaves are stacked up on top of leaves, so then you've got a light problem, so those aren't going to be overly healthy. I don't know, maybe I'll do like that. So you're going to have they're not going to get enough light. They're not going to be super strong. They're not going to be super healthy. But then also when the leaves die back, powdery mildew will still attack dead leaves, and you just invited them in by having that dead foliage that you didn't even know was there because it was just covered up. You know, there was a big duck blind of foliage that never got light, and that's what happens to it, and that's what allows our predators to come in. When I've had dieback, sometimes on this tree and also on my coastal oak, at the little bottom even, it was over just a prolific, healthy amount of overgrowth, and me going, yeah, cool. Look at all the energy we're making, and at the same time, we were about to just wreck the foliage with PM, which I attacked the PM, the powdery mildew. I attacked it with neem, and in this instance, that ends up being the same thing that they tell you not to do when you're watering the foliage. So, like they told me not to water the foliage, so I watered the foliage with things that I thought would help, when really the message was, don't water the foliage. Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, that's what they meant. So this took a little while, but this wasn't all of that, and this wasn't all that. We were able to get some good rule of threes. I'm going to take out this branch. It's not an up or a down necessarily, but the neighborhood's crowded. What was that just flew by? Do you want to keep all that stuff? Yeah, might as well. Let's see. Might as well. Really? No. Let's clean that up. Yeah. All right. I am about to pull up to the barn on this, as they say. Quercus suber, Cork Bark Oak. They are most rewarding. They're most rewarding, and this tree has been my pleasure to grow. I was a beginner when I got this tree, and it put up. Did you see what I just did? I was looking at this and I pulled it down and snapped it. I'm gonna cut that right here. That was pretty easy. That was pretty easy to do. And it was because I pulled it opposite of its shoulder on that joint. That's why that did that. Let's see, that comes that way. And then comes I didn't like wreck a major portion of the tree or something. I was looking at it and wondering if I should cut it off, and I broke it. So but that was so easy also. No, you're not that wrong. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. This was pretty much us pruning our Quercus suber, and when it comes to developing and styling your trees, sometimes you've got something in your head exactly what you want to do, and sometimes you're in a stage in the tree's life where you're just kind of going through and restoring the energy. And in instances like that, maybe we don't see the tree we want to design yet, And if you don't see the tree you want to design yet, kind of hold back. Kind of hold back until you do. But then, like I said, it's easy to get out of that can't see the forest for the trees thing when you start playing the straight up, straight back, straight down. That's how you build a pattern of twigs and limbs and branches that are pleasing to look at and look like they have some structure to them. And when you have done that, then at that point, I think at that point, it is a little easier to see the tree in here than it was when we started. So that was the point. That was the point. Part at one point. The other point would be that by doing this, we are facilitating more growth, but we're going to facilitate growth where we want it, and that we will prune back the stuff that comes back that we don't want. But also, we're going to get more air and light in here in those places. So I don't just have leaves piled up, branches piled up on top of branches that none of them are going to get enough light. And maybe the one that's second down, or maybe the one that's third down, has the design aesthetic that I would really like, if only I knew it was there. Well, so that you won't have to worry about cutting the wrong thing, there are rules that'll tell you what the right thing to cut are, all things being equal. So when you can't see the tree because of all the mess, go through with those rules, and that'll go a long way towards helping you clean up your tree, and that'll go a long way towards clearing your mind of all the clutter. Now you can see kind of what you know, it's just a matter now of sitting back and looking at the work you've done and seeing what parts of the tree you really admire and want to accentuate, and what parts of the tree do you want to hide. And so it's just how that goes. And it's that organic. It doesn't take an art degree to just go, yeah, this thing has a nice flow. I like this part. I like this part. Or this part feels a little chaotic. Or maybe I might see something and goes, I like this, but it doesn't match the rest of the tree. So yeah, we do want to be mindful of what strikes us as natural, and if it works, does it work? That's the whole thing. There are times when natural is the obvious go-to, and there are times when innovative and dynamic and imaginative. I've seen a lot of really beautiful cork bark oaks, and I've seen quite a few of them. Dadgummit, Pat, I just cut the tip off that where I want to. And I've seen quite a few of them that are logs, and I named this tree log in the early going. I think we're getting enough of a canopy where I don't have to. I don't think I necessarily need to swipe my tree in such a way anymore. I need to take a better look at the ends of these clippers. I've tried to cut things that were in the armpit of a branch only to remove the whole branch when I didn't want to. I've done that twice. It wasn't anything that made. It wasn't like, oh God, now just take the tree out to the damn dumpster. But, yeah. That has happened twice on this show. All right, I'm about wrapping this up. In that way that you will see things over the next, whenever, until you finally just go, stop already. But yeah, like and subscribe if you guys have not already. This is our midweek Wednesday drop. We haven't gotten a chance to play with our Cork Bark, Quercus suber in a little while. But this was a good time to go through and clean some things up and make some things look better. And it's early enough in the summer. The tree right now is back budding quite a bit. So I bet that doesn't disappoint the tree at all, that it is going to get some more light in places that are going to be beneficial to what it wants to do. It's just too dang busy. One of you guys has to go. Yeah, get your swing out of here. I'm gonna wrap this up here in just a second. That looks better. That looks better. That's all. That's all okay. That's all okay. I like this here. This is the hip. This is the first. This will be Associata. Let's see. I originally thought that this was the front, and because the tree is this way, it's bowing to you. I also noticed when I got the tree, I said this as an amateur, this tree does not have a bad side, and I have grown quite a bit in my idea of aesthetics on bonsai since then, but I would still totally agree with it. This tree doesn't have a bad side. I could just decide something else. I could just as easily decide something else. Do I make a deadwood feature out of that? All right, we're gonna call this here. You can kind of see where this is now flat. No more straight up, no more straight down, no more straight back. We were able to go through and cut ourselves down to some nice choices on this tree without having anything that somebody who was a real bonsai person would look at and go, yeah, you need to do away with that bark branch, or you need to do, you know, there's a time for where we are very mindful of those kind of things, and then there's a time where we're going, we need a lot of branches, just basically we need a lot of foliage, and for that reason anything that isn't just absolutely hurting us is probably helping us. So that's kind of how you look at that when you're rebuilding. We filled quite a few gaps and holes on our California coastal oak, and I will be doing the same thing to that tree on the by and by. And I said I was done with this tree, and now I'm micromanaging. I'm sorry. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you. Our next drop will be Saturday. We'll go out here on this balcony. Look, cloud it up again. We'll go out here on this balcony and we'll do something absolutely fabulous to something that's absolutely fabulous, because that's how we roll. And thank you all so much for watching.